Today on Sauna Talk, we are joined by Michael Nordskog, author of The Opposite of Cold, the Northwoods Finnish Sauna Tradition. Michael grew up in Two Harbors, Minnesota, very close to where Sauna Days happens, just down the road at Larsma Cottages. And Michael spent much of his life around a family sauna near Brimson, Minnesota, which is about an hour and a half from Two Harbors, right in the middle of northeast Minnesota, surrounded by a lot of trees, let me tell you. But what began as a project to restore that old log sauna eventually led him into a much deeper exploration of Finnish immigration, sauna architecture, family history, and the way sauna became woven into the culture of northern Minnesota. In this talk, recorded at Sauna Days 2026, Michael shares how Finnish sauna traditions took root around Lake Superior and then spread well beyond Finnish-American families. He also talks about the forest inns, his own ancestry, the role of cold lakes and long winters, and why sauna in this part of the world feels less like a trend and more like part of the landscape. This is a conversation about place, the history, identity, and what happens when a tradition becomes something shared by an entire region. And after this episode was recorded, within hours, I was in my car on the way to my northern Minnesota cabin and stopped at Michael's northern Minnesota cabin and had a wonderful time with Valtteri Rantala, who came all the way from Finland via the West Coast, Vancouver area, and also Garrett Conover came all the way from Maine. And there's a photo in the post that is kind of iconic. It shows the four of us clowns between rounds, and it captures much of the spirit. And I'm just real excited to bring you this episode with Michael Nordskog, author of Opposite of Cold. This episode of Sauna Talk is supported by Homecraft Saunas. Homecraft has been manufacturing sauna heaters in Surrey, British Columbia, just outside of Vancouver, for, over 3 decades. Their electric heater lineup includes options for everything from compact home saunas to larger commercial spaces, all built around solid craftsmanship and that great heat through excellent steam. Probably the best steam I've felt in electric. I gotta say, it's right up there. And I especially appreciate that Homecraft offers a range of heater styles and sizes, the Apex, the Revive, and so you can match the heater to the room instead of forcing one solution into every sauna build. I really like the family. It's multi-generational. They really care about making quality products and making happy customers. And I'm a Homecraft affiliate, which means Sauna Times may receive a commission when you purchase through my link. And it's no additional cost to you, and you get the benefit of me looking at your project. I've done a lot of these, and I really believe in good heat and making good sauna. So I'm happy to make that happen with you with a Homecraft electric sauna heater. Welcome to a 2-and-8er, right, Michael? Is that best to describe, because your cabin is 2-and-8, right?
2-and-8, and my hometown is right up the coast here, just about 6-7 miles.
Yeah, awesome. So not too far away, and we have this common thing where 2-and-8, even as a big part of our DNA, is also you get up to your cabin in winter.
Year round, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when you hear 2-and-8, what does that mean to you in terms of ethos? This is the area code of northern Minnesota, and I thought no better place to start. Yeah. What does it mean to you, that whole northern Minnesota vibe and region?
So I'm from here. I grew up in Two Harbors, Minnesota. I have a family cabin just 20 miles from where we are right now. I'm up here a lot. I actually live in Wisconsin, in southwest Wisconsin, where the area code is 608, but my cell phone has a 218. I haven't lived up here forever, but when I got a new phone a few years ago, I got a 218 area code. I happened to be up here when it was happening, and it worked out well. So it's, the northern part of the state. I think 218, one way I would put it is it's roughly about the same as the dividing line between where people say sauna and sauna is in Minnesota. That would be a good way to describe it.
And for listeners, Sauna Talk listeners are far and wide. I'll kind of go back and forth with the pronunciation, kind of depending on who I'm visiting with. And I know a lot of Finns would really chagrin on this one, but I don't mind sauna with the AAA, the sauna. To me, it's just representative of how that term and what we're doing is spread. It spreads so far and wide. It's sort of like portage or portage.
I'm a big advocate of portage, actually. I try to use portage as much as possible.
But it doesn't sound, coming out of your voice, it doesn't sound snobby.
Thank you. Well, I'm a quarter French Canadian also, so it is, it's somewhat, native for me, for sure.
I'm going to turn this over to you, and if you don't mind, I'll jump in occasionally. I just wanted to do a quick intro.
Thank you.
You and I have known each other, 15 years?
We've known each other for a long time. We first met when this book was being published, and there was an opening event at the American Swedish Institute in the Twin Cities, and that was the first time we met in person. I think we had corresponded before that. But I just want to say quickly, I really appreciate your enthusiasm, Glenn. And for me, that the first moment I really recognized that was at the Perfect Sweat Summit in San Francisco back, I think that was in 2014. And you were like the rally guy there. You really set the tone early for that, and it was a lot of fun. It really set the tone at that. And now all the work you do and this event here, Sauna Days, is amazing.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's this idea about consistency. I was making a joke on the rocks this morning during the cold plunge session. There must have been 50 people going into the lake with Nick Fox leading breath work and cold exposure. And it's about consistency, right? Like nature, that Shawshank Redemption scene about, persistence and time. And I think much like yourself and your work, your book has stood the test of time, and you've been very consistent about your message. And that's why I wanted to start talking about Northern Minnesota and 218. It's really into the DNA of your book.
Yeah. Well, it's just really fun for me to be here because this is 55616 is the zip code here. That's Two Harbors, Minnesota. That's where I'm from. 4 generations deep. All my great-grandparents raised their families up here on the North Shore, and it's truly sauna country up here. So just to go back to details here, my name is Michael Nordskog. I wrote a book published in 2010 by the University of Minnesota Press called The Opposite of Cold. What is the subtitle there? The Northwoods Finnish Sauna Tradition. You may notice that the word Northwoods and the name Nordskog are the same word. Norwegian Nordskog means Northwoods, so I like to think I had some credibility with that. This is a very Scandinavian American part of the country, as a lot of you folks know. Obviously, where we are today, Larsmont, it's called Larsmont. The original name of the community would have been Larsmo, actually. It was a group of Swede Finns, like Swedish-speaking people living in Finland who immigrated to this area. There were quite a few in Two Harbors, and they wanted to call this little community Larsmo, but the railroad changed it to Larsmont, making it more Americanized in some way. But anyway, welcome to Larsmont. And my book documents the introduction and endurance of the specific Finnish sauna culture here in areas of North America, but primarily within the Lake Superior area. We have Lake Superior as our fabulous backdrop, and this is an area where a lot of Finnish immigrants arrived and thrived and brought this particular type of sweat bathing culture here, and it's featured all over the landscape, but particularly around the lakes, the beautiful lakes of this area. And the book won plenty of great awards. I was very proud that we won the Minnesota Book Award for General Nonfiction. Also received an award from the Minnesota Association of architectural historians, which was a real honor. The book is about buildings quite a bit, and it's done well and continues to do well in no small part thanks to my collaborator, Aaron Hautala, who took all the great pictures that are in the book. So I'm often asked what was the motivation for me to write it, and the best answer is that the log cabin, the log sauna there that you see on the cover of the book is at my family cabin in northeastern Minnesota. That's just 18.7 miles as the crow flies from where we are right here, kind of due inland up over the ridge a little bit, up in an area called Brimson. And back in the 1990s, that building really needed a little bit of a loving care. It was built on a mud sill foundation originally, and it kind of sunk into the ground. It's built of northern white cedar logs, and it kind of began to rot a little bit. So we took on a family project to do that. So I started reading various books, looking into cultural sources to learn more about sauna, because this presentation today is called 3% Finn, but I did not grow up knowing anything about Finnishness really. So I started reading, I knew a lot of Finns from high school and such, but I didn't have any Finnish family traditions. So I was reading books like John Vertinen's The Finnish Sauna and The Sauna Is by Bernard Hilila, and of course discovered this amazing book from the 1970s called Sweat by Mikkel Oland, and began to understand the traditions behind the buildings more broadly. And I'd been using the sauna all my life up there, at the family cabin, because my grandparents, Louis and Mabel, had bought that property from a Two Harbors couple, Wilho and Fanny Puikinen, who were Finns, and soon after I was born.
A quick question on that one. Going back to high school, so a lot of Finnish Americans in your school.
Yeah.
And good friends.
Oh yeah.
How were they? How were the Finns, your classmates, like identifiably different in any way as Finnish immigrants compared to you as only 3%?
I'm glad you brought that up, because looking back, in a lot of parts of the country, especially among European Americans, there's a group that's kind of singled out in certain areas for maybe jokes and such. And there certainly was this sort of, again, within this largely white community on the North Shore, there were a lot of jokes about Finns. There were Finnish language among these Nordic people. The language is really distinct. So
cool, good. Yeah. Give us an example of how a Finnish American 17-year-old was maybe a little different than the others.
One thing I recall is that people would kind of make fun of the colors Finnish people would choose to paint their houses. I don't know if that resonates at all, but it was like there was a little more imagination. Now that's not just limited to Finnish people in any sense, but.
And was sauna part of your high school? Did the Finns, your friends and your Finnish friends, draw you into sauna?
Well, there was no varsity sauna team or anything. Yeah. Like there could be now, but sauna was very, very well. It was just really commonly known among people. People knew what it was even if they didn't take one regularly, because this is Minnesota, and it's like every other family in Two Harbors had a family cabin on a lake nearby somewhere, generally not Lake Superior, but on the inland lakes where it would be a little warmer in the summer. And so it was something that was very familiar, certainly, yeah. So for the most part, in my practice with brothers and friends, we would use the sauna as a warming house, basically, between swimming rounds in the spring-fed lake where my cabin is, which is pretty chilly year-round for sure. But the older I got, the more I began to appreciate the hot room side of things and the magic of the thermal contrast, heat with the cold lake or the powdery snow in the winter, and eventually even through the ice in the winter. So our sauna is this expertly crafted log structure made from northern white cedar. Thuja occidentalis is the species, really a beautiful tree and a really long-lasting wood with this distinctive smell. It was very popular in sauna construction, and because it had settled in, it needed some work. And as I was talking about some of the various sources for what saunas should look like, how they're built and why they were built in certain ways, I came across a book called Smoke Sauna by Risto Vuola-Apiala, and I'm just going to run through, before I go into that book here, because I have a slide with that, I'm going to catch up here a little bit with these slides. And this is an overview of the little coastline, Suomi Cove I call it, on our lake up there. And this area here was 7 or 8 families from 2 harbors all platted this 40 up there, and with these wedge-shaped parcels, and they all came down to the lake. And virtually every one of these properties has its own sauna up there, and they were, mostly 2 harbors people, a couple of families from Duluth, and that's the environment I grew up with up there. So this is a picture of Aaron's from the opposite of cold, and that's me doing a cannonball off of my neighbor Ruth's sauna there. I love this view here. You see that tree in the background there. We used to high five that tree coming in water skiing all the time into the cove there, and beautiful thing. And this is the tree as of last summer. It's showing me that maybe my days are numbered here on this earth, but time passes, and that's just one of those icons there. So here, I'm just going to run through a few pictures of the different saunas there. I talked about the idea of color, and if you go back to the 40s and 50s, there was this very popular asphalt siding style, like you see here, that has these bright colors and the contrasting door colors there. That's another beautiful one on a point. This one is tucked into the spruces there next door to our place, and this is a particular one beyond ours. This is the other one I probably used the most. In fact, I borrowed that sauna quite a bit when our sauna was under reconstruction.
And how far from your cabin is this one?
It's next door.
Right next door.
Yes,
yeah.
And the properties are all, we're talking like
50
80,
foot?
90 feet of shoreline each. So everything's kind of wedged in right together.
And what's the stove in here?
They're all custom, purpose-built by local people, and very cool. And ours is too. You've been in our sauna before, and I know you've marveled at the massive heat in that thing. It's really big. It consumes a lot of wood, and probably one of these years we'll upgrade it for something a little more efficiency, and probably a Kuma, honestly. But for now, it still works. I know how to get it running and drying properly.
Oh, it's remarkable. I won't steal the thunder on these slides, but to your sauna and to that point, I remember leaving Duluth. We were together at FinFest, and you were like, come on up. And really, I wanted to be with you on the bench anyway, but when you told me it's right on the way to Lake Vermilion, it became a no-brainer. I'd only be an idiot not to show up.
That's right.
And I showed up with an almost empty tank of gas.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
I gave you a little bit of lawnmower gas out of the garage.
Just to get out of
like 4 years old.
Well, that's Brimson, man. I mean, there was no gas stations. Brimson is quite remote, this lake that you're on. More remote than I realized.
It's it's all state forest around up there, and a lot of, it's the common wolf packs there. There's a lot of lynx in the area, and as we found this morning driving in, a lot of bunnies and a lot of deer also.
Yeah. How many saunas dot the shoreline of your lake?
I think I've counted before, and I don't remember. I think there's 17 saunas on that lake.
That's amazing.
Something in that.
Is that a testament to the Finnish American, immigrants of the area, or how would you aspire that?
The ones I'm showing you here on this shore, and this is another one on the next door on the other side, and this shows how these are 2 saunas right next to each other. Like on the property line there. On that particular shore, that was Finnish American families. But if you look throughout the lake and see the ones that were built later, well, it's kind of, Swedish American families or Swede-Finn families or Norwegians or Irish or whatever are building them on the lake then in the 50s and 60s as other cabins are being built around. This group of the Finnish ones there were that was the first cabins on the lake.
I find that remarkable. In Wisconsin, there's pockets of there's lakes that have pockets of very advanced sauna action going on. And it's exactly to your point. You have a Finnish-American family building a sauna, and then the Germans in Wisconsin start coming over, get invited, and then it's like a candle that lights another candle. It doesn't matter your ethnic background at that point.
Well, and as you know, with your Vermilion experience, it's just such a natural thing to have in this landscape up here. And it's something that makes using the lake, in a swimming and bathing sense, more of a 12-month of a year thing. So, yeah, certainly. So before I broke off there, I was talking about this book, Original Finnish Sauna, and it's a book exclusively about Savu sauna. And it had, historic buildings from around Finland, but it also gave a nod to Sweden's Värmland region in the western part of Sweden on the Norwegian border, within which lies an area called the Finnskog, Finnskog, an area of Finnish immigration within Scandinavia. So a lot of Finns moved to that area from the late 1500s into the 1600s and settled there, and were encouraged to do so by the Swedish king in order to exploit the timber resource there to make charcoal for the metallurgy, for the steel industry in iron industry in that part of the area. There was a lot of iron ore. They needed people to make charcoal so that they could do their smelting. And so the Finns came in and did this kind of slash and burn agriculture that they were already practicing, and became a fixed part of that region. This is the land of life in the Finnish woods, the famous waltz that everyone's heard, probably can remember the melody to that. And when you hear that, you think, oh, the Finnish woods of Finland, but actually it's the Finnish woods of Sweden and Norway up on the border there, and the people are referred to as the Forest Finns. So that area now, the Finnskog, features its own flag, and has kind of worked for a little bit of recognition and autonomy within the area there. This is just one little highlight from the book about smoke sauna, and it refers to this area of Värmland where my great-grandfather was from. Now this kind of rang a bell. This place called Gräsmark, because I had been there before, visited a couple times, first when I was on a high school trip when I was 18, or just after graduating from high school, and then again I was in graduate school in Stockholm and visited that area again, and visited that place because I was taken there by my relatives to see this homestead museum. There was a house there that belonged to where my great-grandfather had grown up in, and so here's just a quick shot of the Finnskog flag here. And here's my great-grandparents from Two Harbors. Alma, she was a Swede on the left side. She's from the Småland region. On the right, Carl Eriksson, he grew up in Gräsmark in that very area. This is the farm he grew up on there on a lake, very Minnesota-looking scene, obviously. And the house there is, we see in the foreground, very traditional Swedish house, but that's the newer house. That was built after he emigrated to America. This is the house that he was born in that had been moved to this regional museum. So one thing I didn't notice when I was there originally is that all the other buildings here at this place were part of this Forest Finn presence in the area. So you had these Savotupa is the word in Finnish for it, or Rukstuga in Swedish. This is a big major dwelling here that's built on the same principle as a Savu sauna. It's got a huge stone hearth in the middle of it. It doesn't have a chimney. It's like it's got, a peaked roof, and the smoke, there's a vent there on the top, and the smoke just comes out the top. And so the people are living down below beneath the smoke layer, and you've got this huge earthen hearth, this masonry hearth. In fact, often there's like for the master and lady of the house, they're sleeping on the stove, through the cold Swedish winter. So that's one example of a building that was there, and etc. There were a couple of Savu saunas and all that.
You must get asked this all the time. the motivation, I took you back to your high school, with the Finnish Americans and stuff. We get a good glimpse of what your lake is like. And you're right, you get to use the lake 12 months of the year and stuff. But you have this appetite for the history of the region. Like what was like the motivation, or where does that come from? Where does your interest in the history of this region come from?
I think there's a certain amount of stubbornness in that, like I grew up in northern Minnesota, and I went to the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities, and I'd talk about, well, let's go up to the cabin this weekend with some friends or something, and people would ridicule pronunciation sauna, right? It's like, well, I'm from this area, and I know the people who built these things, and this is the way we say it, and people would correct it and say, oh, you say that's so funny, that's not the way it's pronounced. And there was a little bit of a grudge about that, because it's like, well, this is kind of my culture. This is what I come from. And so I, and then also just having this building that needed to be fixed up, and at the same time discovering, well, this isn't just a warming house for a cold lake. I mean, this is its own thing. And I think that's kind of where the title, The Opposite of Cold, talks about this type of structure and this practice as being, kind of an antidote to the severe seasons we deal with up here.
Beautiful.
So, kind of just cutting through a lot of this stuff here, I eventually, like a lot of people, have delved deeper into personal history and ancestry. And of course, with ancestry.com and these online things, and it's so easy to do a DNA test, we eventually did that in my family. And in the long run, I found out, I suspected, of course, because my great-grandfather's house was at this predominantly Forest Finn Museum, maybe there's some connection there. And asking some relatives in the area, they said, yeah, there were probably some Finns from the hill farms that were married into that place. But it took a long time, and eventually I did come up, with this 3% Finn in my DNA when I had it tested, and that was really quite a remarkable thing to establish somehow, because I've been working on and written this book and lived within this subculture here where, I really admire the persistence of Finnish immigrants, the maintenance of their culture against a lot of difficulties. The linguistic difficulties was, I think, more difficult for Finns to learn English and adapt than maybe for Swedes and Norwegians with the Germanic language. And so just to find out a little bit of that, and that it came through that area, was really cool. And the family tree, you kind of build it out, and it was still all these Swedish names there and everything. But meanwhile, I've just continued giving a lot of talks and things. And last year, actually, I was going to be here at Sauna Days. Last year, we had agreed to do that, and then I started scheming about a trip to Norway. So I called Glenn and I said, let's maybe try it next year.
I almost got you to cancel your flights to come to Sauna Days. That's how awesome this is.
Yeah, that's right. If I'd only known. I'm really looking forward to saunas today. I did stop by a couple years ago to drop off a book, and I was in the midst of helping my dad move, and I had a trailer full of stuff, so I didn't get to indulge in sauna. And I was like, wow, this is amazing.
I saw that in your eyes a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
you literally almost kept the car running, kind of a thing.
Yes.
You were just traveling through, and I saw in your this envy in your eyes of, I don't want to leave. And then last year Norway, and here you are this year. Yeah. Can I jump in on that? And I don't want to take you off your thing, but I do want to talk about Sauna Days with you.
Next picture,
perfect.
Which is this is Oslo.
Yes.
Last year I went with my daughter to kind of explore our Norwegian heritage a little bit, and visited the farm in southwestern Norway known as Nordskog, and got to tour around there and have probably 35 farms in this one particular region where I had ancestry. It's really, really fun for me to delve into that stuff and plot out the maps. It's definitely one of my geekier things that I like to do. And so we were able to explore and, just drive by all these really scenic, beautiful areas, and with a couple farms, really explore them. one of the things that was really cool about Norway, and it's like southwestern Norway isn't really an area where you think about sauna presence much, unlike, north of Oslo in the Finnskog, there's that long tradition there. But anyway, sauna has really, badstue, as they say in Norway, or they call it sauna quite commonly as well. But like the waterfront scene there, the badstue forening, this sauna society in Oslo, if you ever are in Europe and you want to really get some good variety of sauna, check out Oslo. But anyway, in the southwestern part of the country as well, there was just like there were saunas all over on the waterfront, like is happening in this part of the country. We tracked down this boat, Restoration, which sailed across the Atlantic last year to replicate the original voyage of the first Norwegian immigrants, and that was really fun to go see that moored and ready to head out on July 4th last summer. But of course there we are at the wharf, and there's a sauna right next to it. There were just saunas all over the place, and I had arranged with the badstue forening to do a presentation there with my friend Michael Oland, who wrote this book Sweat, and I had the great honor, first of all, to stay with Mikkel and Rebecca at their place in Telemark for a couple days, and then we rode the train up to Oslo and did a presentation about my book in the sauna, actually, and I gave one copy away. You can see this woman up in the corner. She won the copy there, and that in that particular shot, that's if you look in the background through the window, that's the Opera House, this really distinct, amazing architectural building on Oslo Fjord. So much fun. Last summer, then I did a presentation. You were there as well at FinFest. I was the moderator for a day-long sauna seminar there, and I did a similar presentation to this about learning that I did have Finnish ancestry, so now I actually belong at FinFest. And by the way, Glenn is also 3% Finn.
Yeah, I think it was. So I didn't do the DNA test, but my brother did. So that counts, right?
That counts.
Yeah,
well,
and
Nothing's permanent in this world. There's a lot of family tales out there that I could tell. They don't.
Well, we look alike, so I figure we are both. If my brother's 3% Finn, so am I. So I'm on your team, man. I'm on your club.
So right before that, I did one more deep dive into the family tree there, and finally popped up these Finnish names on my ancestry there. So here's my immigrant ancestor who settled in Two Harbors, Carl Eriksson, Charles Eriksson, and if you look back through to the far right there, you see the names Kailainen and Kukkonen. So I did finally find out who these people were.
How did you dig that deep, Michael?
The thing is, when you get back deeper into your family tree like this, you're dealing with people who have thousands of living ancestors who are also doing all of this tracing, and some of it pops up automatically through parish records that have been digitized, but some of it is just through digging by people. And when you're you have a subscription to one of these ancestry sites, then you see other people's research as well, so you can adopt that. And then I found out that like on the Kailainen side, these were like, I have a great these people are, this is my great-grandfather's great-great-great-grandparents is what we're talking about here. So this is pretty distant. We're only talking about 3%. But these people there were some fundamental people in the settlement of that area. The more prosperous Swedish farms were down in the valleys along the big lakes, and then the Finns had these hilltop farms in an area that was a little less accessible, basically. And that's the far reach here. And I was going to suggest at the beginning, if anybody had any questions, feel free to interrupt. But
yeah, let's get this dialogue. Love to hear from a lot of different folks here in the room. I'll kind of tee the ball up with a question about bringing things forward. And 2 years ago you stopped by, car was almost running, you couldn't hang out. Last year, great excuse, off to Norway. You're anchored here all day.
Yes.
Most of the night.
Oh, we'll be here as long as the sweat is flowing, I think,
What are you most looking forward to here at Sauna Days?
I don't do enough Lake Superior cold plunges. I mean, and having grown up here, I would say back in my generation, people really didn't embrace the lake in the way that's done now. And really in terms of sport fishing and in terms of, swimming and stuff like that. And so I'm looking forward to going down to that ledge rock there and getting a couple of good, honest plunges in the world's greatest and maybe not the coldest, but it's cold. It's plenty cold.
At previous Sauna Days, I put in a photo from here at Larsmont Cottages, and I said, much to your point, excited to jump into the world's largest freshwater lake. And someone called BS on it. Someone in Europe, oh no, there's a lake in Germany or lake in Russia that's actually bigger. And I said, well, I don't know. They call this the world's largest freshwater lake, and it's by volume, not by mass.
Lake Baikal
right?
in Siberia is bigger by volume, but Lake Superior is bigger by surface area. And I'm a geography geek as well as in fact, I have a BA in geography, so that was kind of my academic background. And one thing you hear a lot, the one area I love to correct is that Lake Superior has 10% of the world's freshwater. Not quite true. Lake Superior has 10% of the world's surface freshwater, so it's like, on the surface. But if you factor in groundwater or the freshwater that's in glaciers, it's a very, very tiny percentage. Nonetheless, it is a huge body of water, and I think, in terms of my book, stood as a really wonderful counterpoint to sauna in just this kind of grand metaphorical way.
In the audience, we have Valtteri here, who's the co-founder of the West Coast Sauna Summit, and Val and I were both kind of remarking about how putting a sauna festival on, there's a bit of a hack where you bring heat and you get to leverage cold of where you're having your event, and really that does the work for us. What do you say?
I say it's very helpful to have a natural beauty in your setting where you're, and I've noticed here too, it sets the tone for a little bit more easygoing, grounded environment versus being in the thick of a city.
Totally.
So I enjoy that.
Yeah, right. And having that the natural cool down of a cold lake at the West Coast Summit, Loon Lake. I mean, cold is cold. I mean, you have crystal clear, gorgeous water, and it's just calling you. I mean, I would say those that come to these festivals that have the cold lake access, there is a percent who really never have that as part of their sauna routine. They love sauna. Maybe they're sauning at their health club. Maybe they have their own sauna in their own backyard, and maybe they have one of these cold plunges. But man, what a great hack to use nature and cold water of a lake just for that, and then also the beauty is,
And the other thing I'm really looking forward to today is such an array of curated buildings here today. I mean, there's the fixed one that belongs here full time, and then just this variety, and to be able to sit in all these different rooms and experience how they perform differently and such. I mean, you got the technical side of that down, and I have built my own sauna at home and on this farm in Southwest Wisconsin, and I'm very proud of that. But we all kind of learn by trial and error to some degree, and I'm certainly a student of the physics of the building and everything. So I'm really looking forward to getting on the bench with all the folks here. And also, Michael Nordskog talks about the three pillars of sauna, and there's this physical part and certainly the spiritual part of that. And I experience both of those a lot. I do not experience a lot of social sauna, and I like at Oslo Badstueforening, I mean, you're there with a bunch of strangers, and it was just so fun. It was liberating for me to get to do that and just have those conversations.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, much to that. My backyard sauna, I used to have a lot of social saunas, and then over time, most started building their own saunas. I have great friends that leave me the day their sauna is now built. It's like, that's the last time I'll see you coming to my place now that you got your own. But so much to your point, my cabin sauna, my backyard sauna, a lot of solo sauna action, and then you come up here here, and someone just the other day we were talking about these events and how it's like it's like a thermal Disneyland where there's the spontaneity of going on different rides, meaning different saunas at different. I almost feel like it's like being a kid again, where one can be very spontaneous about let's go here, let's go there, and it's all joyous no matter where you end up.
Yeah. So you do your share of solo saunas.
More and more.
Yeah.
I get invited to a lot of saunas, and that's a wonderful thing. But man, 20 steps out my backyard is my own sanctuary. I'm very grateful for it. So, yeah, when I go to other saunas, I always forget something. I forget my shoes, forgot my towel, forget whatever. But yeah, questions.
I'm just paging through your book here. And it mentions a name. Did you know Ron Lottie? Did you meet Ron Lottie personally? You were talking about how Ron Lottie had built a stove for president of, I think John F. Kennedy or something like that. Or no, President Kekkonen. And it was just kind of interesting because I was like, oh.
I actually bought Ron Lottie's old house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, years ago. As a family, we did.
I don't know him personally, and honestly, I'm not really familiar with what you're.
It's in your book.
I'm terrified of reading my own book, honestly, because
you. Odd connection.
No, that's cool. That's really cool, though.
Now I want to read through it, spend some time with it.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Someone of you want to ask Michael a question about his book, Opposite of Cold? His journey here, Two Harbors, northern Minnesota. Anything come to mind? Mossy Ben, you good?
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for coming, Michael, to this. Val, you got any question or thought?
Yeah, I think the thought, like one of the photos that you had there where you were jumping into the lake and doing a little cannonball, that could be exactly from Finland, that specific photo. And just the lake side, like the country of 100,000 lakes, Finland as well, small ones, not like Lake Superior, but there's a lot of similarities to lakeside sauna and then coming here. So I can just imagine how people felt like home when they would move here.
Yeah.
And establish new lives in North America.
And also really well adapted to the mid-continent, really cold winters as well, which is, a tough thing to adapt to. And the Finns, a little bit uncharacteristically for this part of the country, as immigrants, to a large degree attempted to return to farming from like mining and forestry jobs. And this is not great farming area in northeastern Minnesota or northern Wisconsin or the UP, but you can have your hay farms and little dairy farms and stuff like that. But it was really this tenacity to get back into the country for a lot of people. And of course, the cliche about that, which bears out as true, you hear it from every family. My great grandparents built this farm up in Embarrass or Palo or Nagani, and the first building they built was the sauna when they cleared the land, and that kind of bears out as true. And the basic idea there is it was a smaller building with a hearth that they could heat up and live in, originally. But anyway.
Yeah, that part is very legacy from Finland. Is first building you do in your property is the sauna, because that's where you dry off after a day of work. That's where you can do. It's a multi-purpose room while you're actually getting everything else sorted, and it gives you longevity through the winter to actually go through the other part of the build and the project. So
a question for both you guys. Permits. I think I know the answer to this one, Michael, about Brimson and your lake. You probably don't get a guy with a clipboard showing up, like permitting, but has that changed? Like, these are grandfathered in structures? Or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the setbacks are much larger, much longer now. You can't, and I don't know what the precise figure in St. Louis County is, but you can't, like the buildings I'm showing you here are, like this one is, I think it's 30 feet from the lake, from the front of it there, and some of them are 12 feet from the lake, and you can't do that anymore. And I do know the workaround that certain people use in those settings is, well, you build your sauna on a skid foundation, and then you can, and when you get a complaint about that, you can just skid it back the proper amount. But, you know.
Perfect. And then the second one is on our lake, Lake Vermilion. It's perfectly legal to build a boathouse right on the lake. And I always think, man, what a beautiful spot that is. The boat shouldn't have the best spot on your property. How about in Finland, Vale, with ordinances and shoreline setbacks? Is there constraints that way for saunas?
Yeah, the setbacks are getting further and further, but there's just millions of grandfathered in saunas that are right by the lake. So people just keep the foundation and rebuild a new sauna on the old foundation because those are all grandfathered in. And there's so many of them. And if you drive a boat in a lake or a Baltic Sea in Finland, it's like every building you see in the shore has a little chimney, and it's definitely a sauna building. So
Yeah, magical.
So to your boathouse idea there, I'm here with my friend Rolf from, we grew up together in Two Harbors, and he's another sauna aficionado, but we got up to Brimson not too late we went out for a burger at the local tavern, and our waitress was telling us about how they just converted their boathouse to a sauna, actually.
I'm looking forward to writing about that. Hey, good ideas are fostered through Sauna Talk. I mean, how about Opposite of Cold 2.0, where I help or we work, collaborate and stuff, and we go find some of these boathouse conversions and put a little project together on that. What do you think?
Well, and to the point, and if there's an opportunity for people to comment on Sauna Talk in the comments, one thing I noticed in traveling around and in my research is that in the UP there was this kind of subspecies of sauna where this lakeside boathouse, had the boathouse part below and then a small cabin on top, and a lot of those were built as saunas. So I've never seen that in northern Minnesota anywhere, but I'm sure it exists somewhere. It's a great idea.
How would you say that as you've traveled, comparing sauna culture here in northern Minnesota over across seas? Would you say that we need more sauna culture than what we have, or any other changes that we need to implement to be better?
Well, in this part of the world, I just really think it's just really baked into our culture here, because it's just so natural, and it certainly is not just a Finnish American thing in this part of the world anymore. And I think it compares quite strongly to what you would see in the internal, like the lakes area of central Finland, with the same kind of frequency. And in fact, there was a geographer at the University of Minnesota Duluth for years named Matti Kaups, I think he grew up in Estonia, and he taught here in Duluth for a long time. He did a lot of research about Finnish type buildings, and he found that the incidence of sauna and farmsteads in northern Minnesota was more likely for there to be a sauna on a farmstead in northern Minnesota than there was in central Finland even. So we're doing well here, and if you talk to the sauna manufacturers, I mean, it's just like sauna is booming in terms of having that personal space that you build. So I think it's got its own momentum, and I don't think it's a fad in any way.
Yeah, well said. Good. Well, thank you for being here. It's kind of funny. There's who am I thinking of? I know. It seems like the closer one lives to Larsmon Cottages, the harder it is to get you guys to come to Sauna Days. This is now the third attempt for you to get here, and you're here. Yeah. And how far is it to your cabin from where we're sitting?
It's 18. It's a little over 18 miles as the crow flies. What was it? It's about 25 miles via the back roads. Yeah.
It's amazing. You could literally almost ride your bike to Sauna Days.
Yes, downhill the whole way.
That's right, each way. Final thoughts, questions for Michael? Thank you for coming and being a part. Yeah.
And Rolf, could you break out I brought along my own personal copy of the Finnskog flag today, which we fly on sauna nights at home. And it's, the typical Scandinavian flag design, but with this more animistic heart to it. There's some great symbolism in there that I'm not going to try to unspool here right now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for showing up, folks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sauna Talk podcast. For even more content and discussion of all things sauna, visit saunatimes.com. That's where you'll find articles, resources, and the stories that keep the sauna culture moving forward. You can also connect with me, Glenn Auerbach, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Substack. If you're interested in live events, workshops, or local and regional sauna circuits, you'll find those details on the website as well. Finally, if you represent a brand aligned with authentic sauna culture and would like to explore partnership or sponsorship opportunities, I'd love to connect. Reach out through saunatimes.com and let's start the conversation. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, I'll see you on the bench.